What are you expecting tonight, Cenk? What's going on?
Right. All right. Tonight is mainly about showmanship. So last night we had a real debate of ideas, and so if you're a progressive, you might have been frustrated at Delaney and the other conservatives, but I wasn't. Look, great. You make your point that you don't want everybody to have health care. Progressives will make the point that we do want everybody to have health care, and we'll meet in the battlefield of ideas, and my guess is that your polling will remain at 0%. Tonight, we're not going to have that kind of clash. We're going to have a clash of who had the better quip, who had the better line, who presented themselves better, who won the debate. But is there really a huge difference in ideas between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden? At this point, I don't think so. And in terms of progressives, you got Bill de Blasio, but you know, he's at the end. He's going to get probably half the time with the big dogs, and somehow to try to represent all the progressives. And you got Tulsi Gabbard, who votes with us 90% of the time, but in these debates is a little bit more iconoclastic. So I doubt it'll be a test of ideas as last night was.
Cenk, do you think that there's any possibility that a question will be asked about the BDS vote?
Very little.
Right.
I'd be super surprised. Right. So there are still things that are considered inbounds and out of bounds. For a long time, even talking about climate change was considered out of bounds. Like, what? Right? So finally, we've had people asking about that. In fact, I actually thought Dana Bash's question last night was framed well and accurately on climate change for the first time, in my lifetime in a presidential debate. Right. But in terms of BDS, that seems like that's still a bridge too far to even ask about.
So I also want to ask a little bit about the little tiff happening between Kamala Harris and Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard is really the one who picked a fight with Kamala Harris, arguing that she's not fit to be commander-in-chief, that her temperament, I believe, isn't fit to be commander-in-chief when it comes to making some foreign policy decisions. Do you think that there will be more of an emphasis on foreign policy tonight?
You know, I wouldn't mind that. I think that that'd be interesting. So it was a curious fight for Tulsi Gabbard to pick, but I get it. So she's the anti-war candidate, and so she's got to pick a fight with somebody. And other than Sanders and Warren and de Blasio, you can pick a fight with any of the 800 other conservative Democrats who all will go to war at the drop of a hat. So, you know, she picked Kamala Harris maybe because she thinks that that's a target that she could topple. I don't know that that's true, but I hope that leads to a conversation about that, because I want to know what Kamala Harris's positions are, and I doubt that she's anywhere near as anti-war as the progressive candidates.
So, Cenk, Ramesh here. Just a quick question for you. Yesterday, I felt that in both Bernie and Warren's their performance was one that had a lot of energy, where they really stated a vision, a vision for America, a positive vision. Here's what we believe in. And then the others were criticizing them, saying that's not going to win, that's not going to be electable, blah, blah, blah. I'm wondering whether tonight you believe that any of the candidates on the stage will actually articulate an actual vision for America moving forward, outside of Trump is bad and we need to somehow make the country better without Trump.
Yeah. So I think it breaks down into three categories. Super old school, like Joe Biden. Hey, look, we're Democrats. We don't do anything. We just steady as we go, right? So that's no vision at all. Then you've got the Kamala Harris, Cory Booker lane, which is, well, we get it. People want a progressive vision, so we do a half-hearted job of faking it. And even Van Jones on CNN today said, look, it's not just about what you say, but do you have conviction? And that's part of what we're testing in this primary. So if they did what they said, we'd probably be 60 to 70% happy, right? But we don't have a lot of faith based on their track record and their donors that they're going to. And then there's finally the third category, progressives who actually do have a vision. And again, tonight, I think de Blasio's probably the only one that's going to aggressively fight for a very similar vision as the other progressives like Warren and Sanders. But, this will be an old school debate, because last night was new school, where progressives were literally center stage. And it was the moderates or conservatives who were radical or fringe, trying to take down the leaders who are progressive. So that was wonderful and refreshing. Tonight, the moderates will be center stage again, and it'll be de Blasio on the fringe attacking them. So this will be a lot more like the Democratic debates we've been used to in our entire life. In other words, not as interesting.
So Cenk, you just listed the various categories that candidates fall under, and we covered your interview with Marianne Williamson in the previous hour. So I'm really curious where you would place Marianne Williamson in that list of categories.
So Marianne Williamson is clearly a progressive. She's, I use the word iconoclastic with Tulsi, and I could use it even more so with Marianne. So obviously she's had this issue with Medicare for all. She is refreshing in that she's a very, very rare person in the sphere of politics at all that actually is willing to consider ideas, reconsider ideas, but not in a fake way, but in an earnest, like, hey, look, that's an interesting point and I'm going in that direction way. So I think the jury's out on her Medicare for all position. I'm kind of encouraged. I'm actually very encouraged in the direction she's going. I'm not encouraged at the current stand that she said last night on the debate stage, obviously, but on everything else, she's progressive to very progressive. So I know like people like to snicker over Marianne Williamson because they're not used to her. But if you're a progressive and you really had to choose between her and Biden, I actually don't think it's that close. I'd go Marianne.
So why is it that we're okay? Well, I don't consider myself in that category of we're okay. Like some, yourself included, are okay with her waffling on that incredibly important issue, whereas other candidates, will be very critical of.
Yeah, that's a great question, and there's a really good answer to it. The question is, are they genuine or not? So when Kamala Harris puts her finger in the wind and goes, which way are things going? How can I appeal to voters and donors and be really clever? As opposed to Marianne Williamson, who is clearly earnest in the spin room last night, where she's like, I'm in mid-evolution on this. And I think Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren made good arguments in the debate. What? I mean, Kamala Harris and the slick professional politicians would never admit to that. So you can tell that Marianne's being honest, and that's a world of difference.
All right, Cenk, thank you for coming in, doing this live hit with us. We're looking forward to seeing the debates tonight, and hopefully you can join us for a live hit later from the Spin Room.
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.